Hello, this is Dazzling One. This is week 5 of Monday Night Chats with Dazz, and it's hard to believe that it's been an entire month since. So, while there are a lot of interesting current events unfolding as usual, I actually got around to watching the 4th season of The Strain. And if any of you guys saw the video I did on the fall of Babylon, I mentioned The Strain. There is a lot of pretty interesting concepts addressed within The Strain. And I'm going to check in over at the chat really fast. Hi, Crystal Keith. Hi, Robert Delan. And hi, Niels Ottesen. One thing about the television show The Strain is that I've always seen it more as a metaphor for the fallen and mankind. You have the Strigoi vampires, and then you have mankind. And after, in the 4th season, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for anyone who wants to watch the series who hasn't yet watched it, but you have this nuclear winter that they're in, and in order for citizens to move around within society, they have to give their blood. Now, this is reminiscent to me of the Mark of the Beast when you think about it, because the Mark of the Beast, as some have pointed out, you will have to depend on it to buy and sell. I see that Robert Delan is asking, what show are you talking about? The Strain. But I find it interesting because, blood, life is in the blood. And one interesting thing, too, is the armbands that they have to wear to identify themselves. And you have women who are basically being who are breeding babies so they can be given to the Strigoi vampires to feed on. And while this sounds so far from a future we'd see if you look at things from a very logical perspective, I think that we may be moving closer to that than we think. And something else that I found interesting was that the nuclear winter that they were in, it's very advantageous for the Strigoi vampires, but it's not for mankind. So in a way, it's like they created an atmosphere that was good for the vampires to live in, but not for mankind or humanity. So I was thinking about all these talks all of the time about nuclear weapons, and what if they were to use nukes to depopulate the planet? And if they were to utilize nukes, I wonder how fallen angels or Nephilim spirits would move about the earth in a nuclear winter. I would guess they wouldn't be as affected as a human man or woman would be. So I found that interesting as well. And we see the praise of the fallen, not just in television shows like The Strain, but even, I see Crystal Keefe said, I used to watch it, haven't seen it from first season. Yeah, the first season is a lot different than the last couple of seasons. Hi, Rachel Brown. But I'd say the 3rd season is when they had the more, when they talked more about the ancients. They introduced the ancients in the 2nd season, which to me, the ancients is just another name that, if you look at people who look to the fallen angels, like the Watchers, they call them the Old Ones. So I think the ancients are just kind of a representation of the Watchers or the fallen that came to Earth, that some believe brought all of this sacred knowledge that we have today. But from this season on, we're seeing this new world order that they've established. And that's really the plan for the future of the earth. Even when we look at like what's unfolding in geopolitics, we see that there's all of this civil unrest. You have countries that are wanting to be independent and break away from one another. And we know that with nations, there comes evolution and change. But we also know that if they create so much social issues, that people will want a real leader or someone who could unite the people. And that's when the Antichrist will be able to step in. But one movie I saw recently too that kind of alludes to the fallen angel story, and I'm sure some people have done videos on it. I saw a few. Was Alien Covenant. Now I'm not the biggest fan of the Alien franchise. I don't know if any of you guys have watched the movie Alien Covenant. It was kind of slow, but it was definitely a lot of talk of, it was all symbolic of basically Lucifer's fall from heaven, and basically the main antagonist of the film, David, the android, he wins in the end. So I find it interesting that they're always pushing this as well. But in other news outside of fallen angels and Nephilim, there's a lot of wildfires that are happening in California. And this has been happening. I mean, it's naturally occurring because, I mean, the climate that California has gives way for this. But you have that happening. And then, of course, even though we're out of the peak of hurricane season, we had a Hurricane Nate that struck Mississippi and I think part of Louisiana. And it didn't really do a lot of damage, but now they're talking about the tropical storm Ophelia forming. So I'm just wondering, as we've brought up week and week again about HARP and all of this weather, if we're going to continue to see more hurricanes. Like I thought by the time it got to like N, we would see less hurricanes, but it seems like we're going to continue to see maybe down to the S's or T's, which I hope not. But hopefully it'll all fizzle out in the end. I see that Robert DeLand said I watched the first Alien movie. I don't really remember the first Alien movie now that you're bringing it up. I think I might have seen it like one late night. It was on television, and I thought to myself, I don't know, it was a little boring to me, but I've seen like the recent ones like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but I don't really remember like the old Alien movies too much. I'm not the biggest horror movie person. Like I've watched some horror films, but I haven't watched like all of the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I know some people out there, they're really big horror film fans. I'm more of a science fiction person, even though Alien does fall within the science fiction genre. And I see Robert DeLand said he likes it. Yeah, I mean, I do like movies that are like, The Thing, that movie. I really enjoyed that movie, even though I think that's more science fiction than horror, even though it has the element of it. But I definitely think for me, things like, I'm not really big on zombies either. Hi, Grace Smith. I see she just popped in. But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling on, but there definitely is an agenda with most of these films to push fallen angels, and even like with films like Alien, or even like I mentioned, The Thing, where we're always seeing, some type of alien or extraterrestrial species come to Earth and wreak havoc. And that's kind of like what science fiction has done, is take the idea of something from a different planet and make it threatening and scary. Hi, Jaguar Rai, and hi, Juan Diaz. And I see Robert Delana saying, yes, very good movie. And I think he's referring to The Thing, yeah. I like the movie. I thought it did a good job, even though I know it sounds bad. It took me a while to realize in the film that there were no, like, women in the film, except for, like, the computer and the reporter on the TV. I didn't think about that, but I found it good nonetheless. Hi, Josh S. But with all of that said, I'll be interested to see, since I'm only on episode 4 of season 4, what happens in the next 6 episodes, and I believe this season 4 of this strain will conclude the series, and there won't be any more because it's based off a comic book, so it's going to come to an end. But I think someone left a comment on the video I did on the Fall of Babylon and the strain, and I had only watched season 3 when I made that video. Season 4 hadn't came out yet, but this person had watched the rest of season 4 and they were commenting about it. And I was interested in what they were saying, but I kind of was like, well, I want to wait till I see the end of it first before I say anything back to them. So definitely a lot of programming there for the Mark of the Beast, for the Antichrist figure, which to me, it seems like the master character of the strain is playing like the kind of like Antichrist devil figure. I see Max of All. Stepped in. Hi, Max of All. Also, one thing too I wanted to bring up, and I'm like jumping subjects here with recent events, is Harvey Weinstein and that whole scandal. But I see right now Robert Deland asked, do you think the Mark of the Beast will be a chip? And my answer to that is, and I see Crimson Chin said, what movie? Hi, Crimson Chin. And earlier I was talking about like several different movies, like Alien Covenant, The Thing. I was talking about the TV show The Strain. And as far as if the Mark of the Beast will be a chip, Robert Deland, I believe that it won't be a chip. I think that's just one step in that direction. But I do think it might be some type of DNA change. It could be a chip. It could be that simple. But I'm almost thinking it's going to be some type of like something that changes one's DNA, since it's pretty much forbidden to change our DNA, because that's one reason why the Most High had to wipe out the pre-flood world, was because of the changing of DNA. And I see that, hi Vaughn Johnson, he said, please talk more about this strain, please. And Rusted Blade said, movies are basically gloating in our faces now. And hi Vaughn Johnson and hi Rusted Blade. And Vaughn Johnson said, I know there's more to the show you can expound upon. Yeah, there is more to the show I can expound upon. I'm trying to think about like everything I've seen on the show right now. It's been one of those weeks where I've had a lot on my plate to complete. But like I was talking about earlier, one interesting thing is that it just reminds me so much of, you know, like a post-apocalyptic society on the fourth season. I mean, the first season you start off, everything's normal. Nobody's really expecting some type of zombie vampire infection to wipe out New York City or even the world as they know it. And it all starts with a flight. You have a casket of a ancient vampire on it, and it gets opened and everyone on the plane knocks out. And when they wake up, it lands and they all wake up and they all go about their lives. But slowly, all of them are already infected and they begin to change. But it's too late, because as they change, they attack people around them and they begin to spread the virus, but no one's aware of it. And of course, the main character is a physician. I think he's an epidemiologist, actually. And he and another doctor go about trying to find a way to stop it, but they're unable to stop the strain, which is basically, it's weird because vampires and zombies are very supernatural, but yet this takes a more science fiction angle to the matter. So they're unable to stop it, so then it spreads, and you know, the next 2 to 3 to 4th season, it's them basically fighting to survive more or less than trying to stop it. And I'm rambling on again and ignoring the chat, so I'm going to go back in there real quick and say hi to the new people that popped in. Hi, Understanding Conspiracy, and hi, Wicked Witch. I see that I see Vaughn Johnson said, been seeking the Lord on that show. And Wicked Witch said, I always have, wait, I saw a comment for that. Zombies will walk the earth. It does seem like they're programming us. Rusted Blade said, you're awesome, Dazzing, but you have taken by a few lies such as the Nephilim theory. I'm guessing, Rusted Blade, that you don't believe in the Nephilim, and you see it as a false doctrine. That's one thing where anyone on, I personally believe it based on reading Genesis 6 and then the Apocrypha, which some people discount, but it's one of those things where I feel like it's not a salvation thing, but to me at least, I find that element of the Bible important. But as far as zombies walking the earth, there is a lot of programming in like television that there will be a zombie invasion, and even I believe there's a department of our government, well, the United States government, dedicated to combating zombies. And there was even a plan that came out on MSNBC, what to do in the case of the zombie invasion, which they said was like a joke, but why would they make such a plan? And then the question is, could like a massive virus create zombie-like people? Hi, Jarvis Kingston. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like glancing back and forth in the chat. Let me go back up a little bit to see like any of you guys' comments that you left. And Rusted Blade, as you said about movies basically loading in our faces now, I agree. Movies, television shows, it's all basically just telling us their plans. And it seems like superhero shows have taken over television now. I would say that a couple years ago it was nothing but paranormal television, and that's slowly kind of been oversaturated, and they've replaced it with superheroes, but it's all the same agenda at the end of the day. Whether they package it as paranormal or they package it as science fiction, it's all about pushing the agenda. I see that Niels Ottison said the beast is transgender, just like Baphomet. It's interesting you bring that up, Niels, because it does seem they've been pushing the transgender agenda as of lately, and we know when you look at Baphomet, he's a hermaphrodite, or it is a hermaphrodite, since Baphomet has breasts like a woman, but yet it has a phallus like a man. I see Wicked Witch that I always have nightmares, and I guess my question is, if you don't mind me asking, what type of nightmares? And I see Understand Conspiracy said, what do you think of the zombie symbolism? I don't think they exist in reality or historically, so I'm not sure if it's just mythological, but I could be wrong. And I kind of, I guess, went into that a little bit as far as like, would it be caused by a virus? I mean, even I believe the word zombie comes out of voodoo, which was like they could cast a spell on somebody that would make them act like a zombie, not necessarily be undead, but definitely think it's possible to create a virus that would cause people to act out like a zombie, like act out like a wild animal, and maybe revert to cannibalism. But as far as like undead people walking the earth, I don't necessarily believe in zombies in that sense either. Wicked Witch said the Bible says the dead will rise again. Duh. Yeah, but I think at least for me in that context, I'm thinking more of the dead rising again during Judgment Day rather than them rising again and having a second chance to walk the earth. I see that Rusted Blade said, I believe in the Nephilim, just not the theory raved about on YouTube. And I guess my question for you, Rusted Blade, is how does your belief in the Nephilim differ from how it's raved about on YouTube? And Niels Ottison said the DNA, like a fine-tuned antenna to communicate with our Father, if messed with, we can no longer be accepted. I have to agree with you there, because if you change your DNA, it's pretty much like a F you to God, that you didn't create me the right way. I'm going to go out and change it. There's a fault in my code, pretty much. I see Vaughn Johnson said, I had a dream where creatures that look exactly like the strain were coming, running extremely fast out of a portal through tunnels of an iceberg into the earth. That's really interesting, Vaughn Johnson. You bring that up. I've never seen a creature in my dreams that looked like the strain, but what I find interesting about the creatures from the strain, and I've shown this in a couple of videos, they remind me of some pictures I've seen of, I think it was ancient Babylonian statues. And about what you were saying about a portal or tunnels of an iceberg into the earth, there's a lot of programming about like Antarctica having like a portal. I mean, people who believe in like the hollow earth theory think that Admiral Byrd flew through hollow earth and it was like, I think, a portal within either Antarctica or the North Pole. And on The Thing, which was a movie we brought up at the beginning of the hour, the Thing's spaceship crashes in Antarctica and it's frozen for thousands of years and then becomes unfrozen and wreaks havoc. You have movies like AVP where there is a pyramid discovered in Antarctica and there's this war going on between the predators and the aliens from, the Predator film and the Alien film. So I definitely think too, you consider Operation High Jump as well, and how some believe that the United States and the Nazis all went down to Antarctica because there was some type of alien technology down there and they encountered extraterrestrials. That sounds a little far-fetched, but I wouldn't be surprised. And even there was this now of course Snopes debunked this and said it was a mountain with that was like had perfect sides that just looked like a pyramid, but you had this picture of a pyramid in Antarctica, and to me it looks like a pyramid. I mean, I know that you can have erosion, you can get like even sides off of the mountain, but to me it looks very pyramid-esque. So I definitely think like your dream you're having about something in tunnels within an iceberg, something like that, I really wouldn't be surprised if there's not something like that occurring. And then I see Wicked Witch said The Walking Dead, the strain, the Day of the Dead, its history. Night of the Living Dead started it. What do you mean by Night of the Living Dead started it? And Wicked Witch said, my nightmares are where I'm running or saving abandoned babies. That's interesting. Neil Dodson said, Mark of the Beast, transgender will remove free will. I find that interesting that you say that it removes free will. I never thought of it in that way. I just think that the person would no longer be able to be saved. But as far as their removal of free will, do you think they're going to be like a hive mind and they're no longer going to be able to make their own decisions? Neil, let's see. Juan Diaz said, all witches need to repent. I have to fight off spiritual attacks all the time because of them. No, I agree with you there, Juan Diaz. And I see that Wicked Witch said Christians raped little boys. Well, not all Christians, and some, mainly when it comes to the idea of Christians raping little boys, that's more of the Catholic Church scandal. And I know some people see Catholicism and Protestantism as one and the same, but I mean, there's people within the so I guess church that are snakes, and they do terrible things similar to other areas of society, like the whole situation with Harvey Weinstein and the whole pedophilia in Hollywood, which is something that, as quote unquote truthers or conspiracy theorists, we've been talking about the whole Hollywood pedophile ring. I see Wicked Witch that I actually seen a witch and went into her house. I believe I'm cursed or hexed or know something will happen. I'm sorry to hear that. Like I've said in past videos, when it comes to curses or hexes, I believe in casting it out, rebuking the name of Jesus. Spiritual warfare is important. I do believe in hexes and curses can be put on people, but I also believe that in the power and the blood of Jesus, it can be removed. Vaughn Johnson said, also had a dream sequence where I was running on a golf course where UFOs were zapping people, and the scene quickly changed to me being in high school where zombies were chasing a multitude of students. That sounds very scary. I keep on scrolling back down the chat. Robert Deland said, if we had a zombie apocalypse, it won't last long because they would decay quickly. Malibu Beats, hi Malibu Beats, he said, zombie means sin in Swahili. Thank you for the information. And plagues exist. Yes, they do. Max of All said Game of Thrones is making incest look cool. Can you explain that to me, Max of All? I'm one of the few people who don't watch Game of Thrones, so what exactly are they doing on the show? I know it's been controversial for like all of the violence and sexual content in the show, but I'm guessing they are having some incestuous scenes on the movie. Understand conspiracy said Satanists pretending to be Christians but call themselves Catholics rape little boys. Yes, I agree there. There's a lot of people within the Catholic Church who are in leadership positions who basically worship the sun. I mean, that's why you see all of the sun worship and all of the phallic worship. And it's easy to hide behind it. I mean, Catholic means universal. So you have people that are Catholic and they're into voodoo, or they're Catholic and they're doing something that's completely contradictory. Wicked Witch said incest is not okay. It scars kids. I'm a victim of it. I'm sorry to hear that. Wicked Witch, yeah, incest is a terrible thing. It's hard for me to understand why anyone would want to engage in incest or harm a child, especially. But unfortunately, there's people out there, and I believe, this all goes back to spiritual matters, who are influenced by unclean spirits and they act out in an evil way, which is sad. And of course, Satan's biggest way he tries to harm people is through traumatizing them in their youth. Rusted Blade said voodoo zombies were dosed with slow poison. Those who poisoned them dug them up and gave them the antidote, but then put them on another mind-numbing drug. Interesting information that you brought up, Rusted Blade. I see Niels Addison said a zombie is a perfectly possessed person with the blood and flesh hunger from a demon, been hungry since the flood. Yeah, I mean, there's that angle too. I mean, I think Jason A., if I'm not mistaken, like back in 2014, he put out a video about like a zombie-like behavior, and it showed all these people who were stripping down butt naked, and they were like chasing people, trying to like eat them or bite them. I remember the man back in 2012 who got like his face bitten off. And you've seen these incidents of people going after people and like biting off their face or parts of their body. So we know that, of course, they're going to attribute this to drugs. And I do think there are substances that can alter the mind to do these things. But then there are people who are possessed in such a way where, for whatever reason, the demon, they crave flesh and they use that person's body to go after the people for that flesh. But I agree. Since the flood, I mean, before the flood even, in the antediluvian world, Nephilim did have a taste for flesh. And that's something you'll read in, like, the Book of Enoch. Understand a conspiracy said, interesting concept, Niels. Wicked Witch said, why do you think bath salts did what they did? It's not normal for a human to bite another human flesh. No, I have to agree with you there, Wicked Witch. I definitely think that, I don't think it's just simply bath salts alone, because if it were just bath salts, I don't know why it would, unless somehow it was doing something to their frontal lobe and creating hunger at the same time. I don't know why it would do that, but I think it's more spiritual than anything else. Understand conspiracy said the demonic spirits that possessed them were cannibals in an early incarnation of giants. Yep. And Rusted Blade said, no, Nils, look it up. Voodoo zombies were drug slaves. And then Juan Diaz said, people don't realize how much of a big deal witchcraft is. The entertainment industry is based on witchcraft and the occult. That's why I steer clear of movies and TV. You have a really good point there. I'm going to be honest with you, Juan. I'm kind of one of those people where I understand that, and yet I still watch movies. I still watch television. And there are people out there who throw away their television set. They don't turn on TV, and they manage to steer clear of it. But yeah, Hollywood, even like Hollow's tree, where witches, they got their wand to cast spells. And we know there are people within Hollywood who do practice the occult. Some have come out unashamed and told us, others do it in a more covert way. I mean, even look at the wearing of the red strings in Hollywood, those who are into Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah, or even look at the tattoos that these people get on their arms. I saw an interesting video by Black Child a couple of years ago where celebrities had different tattoos with numbers on them that almost looked like they were marking them as like property. There's just a lot of odd stuff that goes on in Hollywood, and it's just terrible that again, like I know I keep bringing this up off and on about the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, but we're this whole pedophile ring. It's like they're bringing this out as if this is like not as common as it should be. You know how the mainstream media reports on things, but this is sadly a common occurrence for too many people, especially children. And that's why I used to think, before I understood stuff about the Illuminati or the secret societies, or the whole satanic organizations that run everything, all the institutions, I used to think to myself, it would be really amazing to be like an actress or a musician. I mean, I never seriously went after it like some people do, so I don't have any stories or anything, but I thought it'd be amazing to do that. And after I learned about all of this, it kind of just makes me see like, I mean, even if you took out the satanic aspect of it, just like the casting couch alone to me is something I would never want to deal with. There are people out there who would do it. And the sad part is you have people who try to get parts or roles, even to speak on television, and they only get like 2 lines. And they have to do all this grotesque stuff. But when you put children in that atmosphere, it's just so terrible. And this is why you have these kids who are on Disney Channel or Nickelodeon losing their minds when they hit 18 or 19. And they usually do some type of photo shoot that's very risque, that basically tells all of the perverts within Hollywood like it's open season on them. They're legal. And it's sad because like sometimes it happens later than others. I mean, look at Amanda Bynes when she had her whole mental breakdown. That was a complete mess. But I mean, we've seen it with Britney Spears, and it's sad because they use these idols that kids have. They grow up with them, and then as soon as their idols start taking off their clothes, some of these kids start taking off their clothes with them. I'm sorry, guys. I'm jumping back over here to the chat. Understand Conspiracy said the bath salt zombies were said to have extreme strength, and it took many bullets to bring them down. I remember that Understanding Conspiracy. That was an interesting bit of information that they kept reiterating to us. I don't think bath salts alone are going to make you super strong. I mean, those are qualities often we see with people who are demonically possessed. And Niels Otteson said, yes, imagine thirsting after human blood for thousands of years. They portray this in vampire legends, yes. When I think about it, yeah, vampires, fallen angels, basically one and the same. I see Rusted Blade said, UFOs are real, but they are U.S. government property. Are you talking about like the metallic type of UFOs that you see, like the stereotypical, like flying saucers? Niels Otteson said, yes, hive mind, zombies without free will. The MK Ultra is the research for this. And you're talking about the mark of the beast, I'm guessing, creating that hive mind. And Wicked Witch should thank Jesus for the chat tonight. I'm glad that you're enjoying the chat, and I thank him too for it. Understanding Conspiracy said the vampire legends are very similar in looks to the pale skin Nephilim. Vampire fang equals serpent fangs. I'm glad that you bring that up, that comparison that can be drawn here. And that's something that, like, again, like, it's programmed into our mind. Understanding Conspiracy is like these monsters, even like with the strain, they're pale skinned creatures. And that's the other thing, guys. Now that I'm talking about this strain again, just remember this. They're androgynous. Like, whenever they change into like that vampire zombie form, they lose their genitalia. Because I remember on the first season there was this rock star. He was obviously like a fiend, he loved women, but when he changed, like there was a scene where you heard him going to the bathroom and you heard something drop in the toilet, and a few seconds later they showed him and he was missing his part. So, yeah, in the strain, to be one of the vampires, you lose your genitalia. You are androgynous. It goes back to this whole androgynous creature type of programming. Rusted Blade said, dude, you people not know Napoleon captured the Vatican and threw the priest into prison and gave it over to the Freemasons, history peoples. Well, at the beginning, the bad guys couple were committing incest. Guys couples are doing it, and the dragon is always a devil. Main character Jon Snow comes back from the dead through necromancy and witchcraft. That's an interesting bit of information that I didn't know there. Nils Ottesen said Bram Stoker worked at a Scottish castle. He got the vampire idea, and from the royal families that were drinking blood. It's interesting you bring that up about Bram Stoker since he's known for the Dracula movies, I believe. You can see how much I know about vampire films. Sorry guys, I'm losing the chat here. Scrolling up again. I see that Rusted Blade said, come on people, you're all being taken by lies, and I'm not quite sure what lies he's referring to. Wicked Witch said, if we live on Earth, what is on the other planets? And that's a source of debate for those who believe in a flat Earth. They're going to say there's no planets. For those who believe in a round Earth, they're going to say there are other planets, but if they're inhabited by intelligent life, that's up for debate there. But as far as the alien propaganda that we're being fed, I believe at least, is more so for the fallen angels' benefit more than other species being out there in our solar system or galaxy. Nils Ottesen said Prince Charles in England brags about his relative Vlad Tepes of Romania. And I see Rusted Blade said Vlad was a hero, and he said Lord Byron was a pedophile whose travels were related to his disgusting sexual taste. He was a friend of Shelley. Are you talking about Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, Max of all? And Malibu Beat said, is it me, or is everything single show has a homosexual couple in it? But I've never seen a homosexual couple in real life. I see singles, but not couples. There is an agenda. Yes, I agree, Malibu Beats. It kind of even goes back when we talk about like the Kinsey report and all the studies done by him. He falsified numbers. Like, he made it seem like there were way more homosexuals in the population at the time than there were. And even now, I believe the estimation is 3% of the population is homosexual. So that goes to show us that it's not that many people who are homosexual yet. When you watch television, it's like they always push it. Even like I saw SNL's last broadcast they did with Gal Gadot, the Wonder Woman actress, and there was a scene where they had, the Amazonians, and there was like a lesbian kissing scene, and you can't go without watching any form of comedy without some form of perversion. But it has to always either be, even like what happened with Dwayne Johnson, and I know I'm getting a little off topic here, where he made that whole skit. I don't think it was not on SNL, I don't think, or was it on SNL? It was on some comedy show late night when everybody was sleeping, so very few people would catch it. And he was a scientist who made a child molester robot. I mean, that's just disgusting. I don't see how anyone could joke about a child molesting robot at all. But yes, there is an agenda definitely to push, to make it seem as if more people are homosexual or bisexual or lesbian than there is. I mean, there are people out there who obviously do. That's their identity that they identify as, but there's not as many as they'd like us to believe. And a lot of it has to do with the sexual revolution that took place. I see Nils Ottesen said yes. In the movie, he was a hero. He is also known as the Impaler. Nils Ottesen, are you referring to the Dracula Untold movie when Vlad was a hero? Because I remember that movie pretty well. Wicked Witch said it's scary because if we run out of food, we will become cannibals, aka zombies. But humans don't want to think about that. But we need to, because supposedly by 2020, mad cow disease epidemic. Can you explain more about the mad cow disease epidemic? Because I've never read anything about 2020 and the mad cow disease, but I know that mad cow disease, I remember being in second grade and first hearing about it. It really fascinated me. And even with the Hillary Clinton conspiracy theories about her having Kuru, I don't think she had Kuru. I think she could have had something like Kreutz Felter, how do you say it, syndrome, CGD or CJD. I'm messing this up. Kreutz Jacob syndrome or whatever. Maybe something along those lines, or, maybe something like mad cow disease, because I think Kuru is more isolated to Papua New Guinea. But those diseases where people will cannibalize another person and then they'll get prions, which are just like twisted proteins that grow on their brain and they infect other proteins, twisting them to the point where it affects their movement and thought process. They're not necessarily like scary zombies, they're just really messed up people after that disease. And I see that happen with mad cow disease, and it's scary because the way they run the meat industry, they sometimes feed animals. Like they feed pigs, other pigs. They feed cows, other cows, and it's disgusting. And it is a recipe for diseases like mad cow disease. I see Understanding Conspiracy said, I believe he impaled people in order to warn off invading Muslims. It was something he learned from witnessing. Sorry, I'm scrolling up again. What Muslims did to the outskirts of their cities. He just copied it from Muslims, basically. Irony being, it worked. And I'm guessing you're talking about Understanding Conspiracy of Vlad the Impaler. And yeah, when it comes to like the history of like Europe and Islam, and even like I don't know, I watched a short documentary about the man who created kind of like the first suicide bombers, and like how he tricked them with drugs and made them think they were going to a paradise where they'd have like all of these women and all of that. It's just very fascinating. But like how you have certain people within the West who learned from him, and not just him, but like other Muslims, and what's it called? Copy that behavior. And I see Malibu Beat said, yeah, I seen that Wonder Woman skit, Pure Garb. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, we're going to see more of that, more lesbian, more gay kissing scenes. It's like the television show Empire, there's like a gay main character on there, and he's like always like pushed a lot on that show. And usually when they have like a homosexual or lesbian character, they're like the beloved character of the show, more so than the straight characters. I see Wicked Witched, but two women is okay, but two men, it's gay. It's not right, fair, unjustified. Are you referring to like people's perception of like two women being like fine? Because there does seem to be like a kind of double standard here where, if you see lesbians kissing, it's like, oh, that's hot, that's cool, like a girl kissed a girl. I think even back to like the Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It song. There's a lot of people who, girls like I knew in high school, who thought it was cool that when they got drunk they kissed another girl, and I obviously didn't see it as cute or anything, but it's like people were fine with that. But when it was two guys, it was like, oh my god, they're gay, that's so disgusting. I mean, to me at least, if you're going to take a more like biblical stance and say homosexuality is wrong, then I would say you'd have to condemn it on both sides. It can't just be, oh, two men is disgusting, but two women, oh, that's great, the more the merrier. Like, no. But there is kind of like that double standard and that stigma when it comes to how people view homosexuality. Like lesbianism is okay, especially if they're quote unquote lipstick lesbians, or lesbians that don't look very butch, or like dykes. They look very feminine and attractive. I mean, that's what a lot of pornography, they push that a lot, and it's not just watched by lesbians; it's watched by straight men as well. And I think that's why some people are more accepting of it, sadly. But it's all about perverting society. And I see Max Aval said, exactly, Mary Shelley was married to one of the Lord Byron's best friends, so she had to be acquainted. They were all Luciferians. Yeah, I remember when I read Frankenstein my senior year of high school. My professor, I'm so used to being in college, my teacher, my English teacher, she said how Victor Frankenstein, the professors he was inspired by, you later would learn they were part of the occult, but I never saw that in the books. I'm guessing because she was like really obsessed with the book. She was familiar with the fact that Mary Shelley was maybe in the occult or dabbling within the occult. So thank you for sharing that valuable information, Max of all. Rusted Blade said, I'm curious how we have a Wicked Witch here, and I guess I'll have to ask her about her username. Let me go up again in the chat. I keep scrolling past some of you guys' comments. Max gets his mutant powers by an MK Ultra control program camouflage as scientific. It's scary. I haven't seen the movie Deadpool, but I know it's a favorite of a lot of people around me. And I did not know that, but they're showing us, they're always mocking us with like, they call us crazy tinfoil hat wearers, but yet in film, they put exactly what they have done or are doing as entertainment. Nils Ottoson said Vlad Tepes in Romania is Dracula. Royal families is what we know as vampires. Understand Conspiracy said, I just watched some videos about Rick and Morty, and apparently the fandom is creating anime-style drawings showing the grandfather and his grandson in sexual romantic scenes. Very disturbing. That is very disturbing, Understanding Conspiracy. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what kind of people come up with this? It's just gross. I mean, I think about even like the television show Supernatural. They have like a huge fangirl base, but yet one thing on Tumblr, and I'm not a Tumblr person here, but apparently on Tumblr they had a lot of girls who are making fandoms of Dean and Sam kissing, and it's like they're not only, I mean, is it there a homosexual angle, but there's an incestuous angle. Like, why would you want to put two brothers together? But apparently, some people thought it was so cute, and they thought, and then they would, of course, ship, as they call it, like moving people together as couples. Sometimes they'd have Dean and his angel together, like as a homosexual paranormal romance type of way. But really, it's just weird that people would put a grandson and his grandfather together. Like, what kind of sick mind would you have to think like that? Do people think, like, are these people fantasizing about being with their grandparents or parents? I would hope not. I think I saw a video like over a year ago by the scariest movie ever that he put out, and I can't remember what it was called. It was really good information. It was really disturbing, but it showed how like they did a study at one of the Ivy League schools. I want to say it was Harvard or Yale, and they asked how many people fantasized like an incestuous fantasy, and there were actually quite a few who did. And it's just like, what kind of sicko would even think that way? Like, just the rules of nature say that if you commit incest, that you're going to have some most likely deformed offspring. So it's just totally unnatural and weird to think that way. But for whatever reason, there are people out there who think that's fine. But even worse, when you start turning cartoons into that. Josh S. said, I know there is a type of cryptid animal that drains the blood of animals, and it either sucks them dry or it lets them bleed to death. Some say it's physical animal, some say it's something spiritual. It's interesting you bring that up, Josh S. It reminds me of like Chupacabra. That's just one I'm thinking of. There's probably plenty of others like that. Understand Conspiracy said Rick and Morty is pushing nihilism and interdimensional travel too, and it's huge right now. I actually haven't watched Rick and Morty. I feel like somebody tried to get me to watch Rick and Morty, and for whatever reason, I never did. But yeah, they're gonna interdimensional travel. That's something we see a lot with a lot of these television shows. And then nihilism, this whole idea that humanity is doomed, there's no hope for us. And then, if you go with what the mainstream media says, it's like, you know these crooked politicians, and whether you're on, and they tell you that like everything is bad and everything's going to hell. And of course, if you don't believe in a god, it's like, well, what hope is there for humanity? May as well become a misanthrope and hate mankind. Let them all die from a virus or nuclear warfare and be fine with it. But yeah, I definitely agree. Nihilism is definitely being pushed, and I'm not surprised they're using that show to push it. Wicked Witch said Rick and Morty is a bad cartoon. Rick tells Morty to bend over. I did not know that about Rick and Morty. And she said this is wicked place we live in. Yes, it is a wicked place. Understand Conspiracy said all magic comes from demons and magicians by Xandrius. Yes, I love that series that he put out there. It really blew my mind because, for the longest time I was always taught that when it comes to like those street magicians, it's all just like some type of prank. It's not real magic, but he showed some pretty compelling evidence in that series. And then I see Nils Ottesen said the homosexual transgender agenda is the beast system. I agree, it's a part of it. Understand Conspiracy said demons can heal and will if it hides them, but they cannot save you in the end. Yes, that is true about demons. And, there's this one man, he came from a family who was into the occult, and I think he himself even was into the occult. I might have him in the playlist of must-see testimonies, I think is what I called it. And sadly, a lot of those videos, for whatever reason, they get taken down by YouTube, or the owner of the channel decides to take it down themselves. But he talked about how, like, he knew somebody who would, like, heal people with witchcraft, but really what they did was they shifted it to a different part of the body. So, like, the person would think, like, oh, my leg is healed, and then they'd shift it to, like, the arm, but they wouldn't feel pain in their arm till later, so they were always depending on them, so they got more money out of them. I see that Wicked Witch had witches black, Wicca are white, angels heal. Are angels really demons then? Um, I believe there's a difference between angels and demons, but I believe that you have fallen angels, which are bad angels, because, again, this kind of goes into that argument about, like, are demons and fallen angels different? And I believe they are. And, people who don't believe that angels can be bad generally have a hard time thinking about, like, bad angels. Even, like, one of the books I wrote, when I was taking it to get it, like, edited by people, they were like, wow, bad angel. This is so weird. I've always seen angels as so pure and holy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, have you ever read Genesis 6:4? Have you ever heard of the Book of Enoch? But there's this kind of misconception that as long as it's angelic, it's good. But I believe there are definitely bad angels. And fallen angels are still angels. They didn't lose their angelic status, even if they fell from heaven. And Wicked Witch said the Bible says men will become lovers of themselves. Yes, it does say that. And I've heard so many takes on it, from narcissism, and some people attribute this to, like, our selfie culture and the selfishness. Some have attributed it to even, like, homosexuality and men, like, loving themselves like that. I've heard a lot of interesting takes on that. Max of All said there is no difference between white or black magic. It is all rebellion against God and will and word. Wicca is extremely dangerous, door to open for demons passing as angels. And I have to agree here. I know, Wicked Witch, that you practice Wicca. I myself don't believe in practicing any form of witchcraft. I think that I know a lot of witchcraft is marketed as, healing, white magic, black magic, and, you're not worshiping the devil or, demons. It's all about, like, nature. But I think at the end of the day, it's like one step that can definitely, like, as Max of All said, open the door for demons if one's not careful. And Nils Ottesen said demons is the spirit of dead giants. I agree. Max of All said God does not need tarot, Wicca, or Ouija to speak with you. I agree. Max of All said, sorry guys, I'm losing the chat here. I see Wicked Witch said he puts people through different things to test you. I agree that God can put people through different situations to test them. Rusted Blade said hedoism. Are you referring to men becoming lovers of themselves? And Josh S. said, I always thought fandoms were weird. It's okay to get invested in a show, but once you start creating messed up fantasies about it, yes, I agree. I mean, you have fan fiction. It's a whole, different culture of people. But yeah, some people do become obsessed with their show, with certain shows to a point where they like make up these weird fantasies. I mean, there's shows I love. There's books I like, but I could never see myself becoming so obsessed that like I start imagining all these different things with them. But I think sometimes what you have are people who are bored with their lives, unhappy. Maybe they've latched on to that show because they struggle with like depression or some like form of something that makes them very like socially awkward or unhappy. Maybe they're going through a tough time, and this show or movie is the only thing that keeps them going. So they like develop like an obsession with the characters. Maybe they identify with the characters to the point as if they are the character. And then they start bending the character to fit whatever weird fantasies they have. I mean, it's no excuse for it. I'm just saying that I think that's one reason why these fandoms get so out of control, and you have the types of weird um, art coming out of these fandoms and fan fiction. I see Kingdom Legacy and High Kingdom Legacy. He or she said, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm assuming gender here, but the trick is the demon moves out of the way a false miracle. Yes, I agree with you there. Malibu Beats said, where I'm from, people suspected of witchcraft get stoned to death, burglars get stoned or get their hands burned or chopped off. Um, that's interesting you bring that up, Malibu Beats. That's very Old Testament there. But yeah, that used to be the way of it in the Old Testament. Um, Let me go down the chat real quick. Wicked Witch said, why is the Book of Enoch not in the Bible? The reason for that being is that there was a vote, I believe it was by the Council of Trent, to take it out, and so they removed it, and it was considered not canon or part of Scripture. And a lot of modern Christians don't really accept it as authentic. It's in I believe, the Ethiopian Bible, the Coptic Christian Bible. Book of Enoch isn't within that one, and it's also, well, it's not within the King James 1611 Bible, not the Book of Enoch, but the rest of the Apocrypha is. Josh S. said, I was always strongly on the side that demons plus fallen angels were the same, but once I watched your video and did research on my own, it became really clear that they are different. Yeah, I mean, Josh S., I started off the very same way. When I first heard there was differences, I kind of railed against it because it went against everything I thought. But then as I did more research and stuff, I realized, yeah, there is a difference. But all this time I was thinking, as long as it has wings and it comes from heaven, it's good. And if it's grotesque and, works for Satan, it's a demon. And now I can see kind of like the error of thinking that. But a lot of people, especially people who are, have the basic biblical theology, will kind of see angels and demons as one and the same. Russet Blade said, I wonder if anybody here researches anything beyond what some conspiracy channel on YouTube claims. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure that each person here researches whatever interests them on their own time. I sure know I do things outside of conspiracy theories. I mean, I agree with you here that it's important that you don't just take anybody's word for it just because, they have numbers or they're considered a truther or conspiracy channel or they're awake or they're woke or whatever you want to call their state of being of knowledge. But yeah, we all should definitely look at things for ourselves. And there are definitely channels that I respect the work that they do. I love the work that they put out, but there are things that I might not agree with them about, and it may be because of stuff that I've researched and I've came to a different conclusion on. I see that Max of all said dazzling. I suspect I have legion of marine spirits in me. I chain smoke weed and psalms calm, but don't let me quit. Any tips, please? I'm sorry to hear about the marine spirits. When it comes to that, with marine spirits, like I tell everyone, the best thing you can do is I might even suggest for you if you feel like it's a legion, maybe go on a fast. A lot of people see fasting these days as like giving up technology or giving up something you find fun. I know for some people, fast isn't easy because they may have to work or they have tasks that require them being in a good thinking process. But if you have the ability to like go on a fast, even if it's like a week fast or like a 3 day fast, that could be helpful. When you fast, you pray and you seek God, and also when you're on a fast, you'll find probably that you'll get attacked more so, but sometimes that can help as well. Definitely look at scriptures associated with spiritual warfare, like Ephesians 6:12. I'm not the greatest person to remember scriptures to the exactness, but look at scriptures like the one that says, "Take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ." I believe that one's in Second Corinthians, but I might be wrong there, so I don't want to like misquote the Bible. But look up spiritual warfare prayers, and just keep on fighting. Every time you have an urge, pray about it. It can be difficult, but don't give up. Evangelist PJ Sampson. Hi, Evangelist PJ Sampson. He said, "Can a person have a spell on them and not dementia?" I do believe, Evangelist PJ Sampson, that a person can have a spell or be hexed. I think that dementia can also be a natural thing as well that can happen with old age. But there probably are spells, I'm sure, that can create brain fog that would make someone have similar symptoms of dementia. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of factors that can give a person brain fog, and not just brain fog, but just like forgetfulness. But I also believe it can be a curse as well. Wicked Witch said, "I have the gift of sixth sense. Well, the third eye. Does that make me a witch?" To me, and see, there's a thing because when it comes to terms and phrases, some people look at witches as like supernatural beings. Some people look at witches as anyone who just practices witchcraft, which is how I take it. I think witches are ordinary people that practice witchcraft. I think it's possible for you to have a sixth sense or, be aware of the spiritual, and not necessarily be a witch. Some people are more spiritually sensitive or aware of spirits or surroundings. Some people are what some may call an empath. They're very empathetic. They can feel other people's emotions. Some people have what some might think of as precognition, or they have dreams that tend to happen afterwards. I mean, I've had some dreams that are kind of like that. I wouldn't call myself like, some type of, I don't like, psychic or anything, but I've had dreams that have come to pass after I've dreamt them. But definitely, like, I believe people can possess what some might think of as special abilities, spiritual abilities, but really, I don't necessarily think it makes them a witch. I just think someone has a form of a gift. And I see that Malibu Beats, Malibu Beats, sorry, I'm scrolling, and then a dazzling. You should watch the new show on Fox called The Exorcist. It correlates with Ephesians 6:12. I actually watched the show The Exorcist. I don't know, is there a second season on right now? I saw the first season, and yes, it does correlate with Ephesians 6:12. It's interesting they're putting out their demonic possession in such a raw form, but yes, Um, Definitely agree it correlates with Ephesians 6:12. Understand Conspiracy says they are repackaging it as New Age religion of consciousness expansion. No, I agree with you there. Um, New Age and the whole consciousness expansion is pretty much just the pre-flood religion repackaged. Kingdom Legacy said there's a prayer by Dr. Cindy Trim. It's called in agreement with her. Thank you, Kingdom Legacy, for sharing that. I believe Max of All was the one who asked for advice on it. But yeah, as far as prayers go, thank you for sharing that. Max of All said, I am diabetic type 1 with insulin. I already did one preparatory fat of 7 hours to see my sugar reaction. Dazed, fast, straight, maybe. Maybe. I mean, like, if there's some type of, like, health concerns when it comes to fasting, I can understand, like, as far as, like, not being able to fast in a traditional sense. So I just want to put that out there, too. But for those of us, for whatever reason, if you can do a fast, like, for me, it's kind of difficult because I got to go to school every day and I drive, and it'd be hard for me to drive without eating. But if I have, like, a week off or something and I can fast, that's always, like, a good thing. I see Wicked Witch said technology is Satan's tool. I mean, yeah, technology can be Satan's tool, but it can also be used for good as well. I mean, like I always say, without technology, we wouldn't all be here chatting tonight. Kingdom Legacy said, also a great book, basically a war manual called Prayers That Root Demons and Break Curses. Thank you for sharing the book. I see Wicked Witches. Yes, it is your sister. Were you guys close? I don't know if you're talking to me about my sister or if you're talking to someone in the chat. Evangelist PJ Sampson said, what did you say about clothes and objects having spells on them? I'm thinking in past videos, because I did talk about like objects possessed, not possessed, but cursed objects. I do believe that there are clothing and there are objects that people can have spells put on them. I don't think the object itself starts off cursed, but say somebody hates somebody for whatever reason. Maybe they did something that that person feels wronged, so they feel justified in cursing like a piece of like a scarf. Some people believe in like having a good luck charm, and a lot of good luck charms are just simply somebody putting a demon into like a say like a necklace to kind of follow them for good luck to do their bidding. If someone then goes to like say a garage sale and gets that necklace, they may now have that same spirit with them that was used by the other person for whatever bidding that they did. So I that's a way for someone to have like clothing or objects that are cursed or have spirits on them. And that's why, for me at least, I never thought about it too much, but I used to be kind of like okay with like, oh, you know, second. I mean, sometimes people can't help if they get secondhand things, but for me at least, anytime I get anything secondhand, I would just pray over it, you know, just to be safe. I see that Wicked Witch said, when I was a little girl, my first funeral I went to was my uncle. Well, after I seen his pale body, I felt a rush. About a week later, his ghost spirit came to me in real life, not a dream. I'm sorry to hear about your uncle that passed away when you were a little girl. As far as like ghost spirits go, I think that there's familiar spirits that can come in the form of relatives, but I don't necessarily believe in ghosts because of the scripture that talks about man can only die once. But I do believe in like people can see spirits that resemble the dead. like especially like people that you're close to, like your uncle or someone has a father that dies. Robert Deland said the world would be better without magic. I'd have to agree. It's hard to imagine a world without it because I mean, so much of like what we have, like modern entertainment, is influenced by it. But yeah, magic was brought by the Watchers. I see. Understand conspiracy said demons pretend to be your dead relatives. It's easy, common practice in the occult world. I agree with you there. Understand conspiracy. Evangelist PJ Sampson said, "My sister gave me a scarf and my mother necklaces and a bunch of clothes, have have a hateful spirit with us both." That's interesting you bring that up, Evangelist PJ Sampson. Yeah, I'd be wary of it. I'd pray over it. I mean, has anything negative happened since you've had the scarf or the necklace? Because sometimes people, they can have like terrible feelings toward you, but at the same time they can give you a gift. And sometimes people really do curse objects. And then I guess one thing to look for is like, have bad things happened since then? Is anyone sick? Have there been financial issues? I mean, these are usually markings of a cursed object. Max Eval said talking to dead relatives through mediums supposed powers is a hoax perpetrated by fallen angels passing as dead loved ones. Yeah, I mean, spirits are tricky. They'll play dead relatives. They'll play sexual fantasies and dreams. They'll scare people. They'll entice them. Spirits can be tricksters, and yeah, you have fallen angels and demons that will take on forms of people that are familiar to us. They prey on our lust, our desires, our fears, and we see this often too with horror films, how they portray trickster spirits like that. Like we were talking about weeks ago with the movie It, the It clown preyed on those poor children's fears, and of course he preyed on the traumatized children of all children. Malibu Beat said, "My mom was watching Joel Osteen yesterday. He was talking like pyramid scheme. I told her he is fake. She was frustrated. All my family is Catholic, but I stopped religion. I have faith in Jesus." I'm glad to hear, Malibu Beats, that you stopped religion, and I know how you feel as far as like, people within your family who they practice Catholicism, and of course you see through people, who may be running like fake ministries. I mean, I have to say I'm very skeptical of a lot of televangelists because I mean a lot of them, when you get down to the messages they're preaching, it's mainly prosperity. There's not a lot of talk of deliverance, and for people who are very invested in the church culture within the institutionalized religion, it's very difficult for them to see these people as false. And so the best thing you can do, of course, is like you've done, remove yourself from it and live by example and lead by example. And often, maybe when people see that over time, they may choose to come out of it. I mean, my father's side of the family is Roman Catholic. He wasn't Roman Catholic. My dad didn't really raise me with any type of religious convictions. I mean, he believed in a God and all, but he didn't try to instill any form of faith. On my mother's side of the family, they were Protestant, non denominational. So I got raised with that, which really helped me. But I will say, not having a father that really believes has been difficult because if he heard the stuff I'm talking to you guys about right now, because he doesn't know I have a YouTube channel, he doesn't even know that I'm streaming, he wouldn't really be encouraging of it. He often will not discourage me with talking about this stuff. Like he believes in the supernatural, he believes in God, but me and him just disagree on a lot. And so I know how you feel like when you have like a parent or someone close to you who you really want them to see the light. Let me go back into the chat. I see Wicked Witch said Mother's Necklace is giving me a vibe. Josh S said I think people underestimate how many demons are around. My guess would be in the millions, if not more. And Saved by Grace said hi Dazzling one first time on live. Hi Saved by Grace. And what you were saying, Josh S, about there being like so many demons around, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, if we could see demons, I'm sure it would be very interesting. They're probably all around us like germs are, you know. Like we know germs. Like if people were germaphobes or they were so conscious of germs, they would be more careful about the doorknobs they touched and the sink handles that they touched and the kissing and all of the stuff that you do. But of course, if you focus too much on the germs around you, you can drive yourself insane. But at the same time, being aware of germs, not being hygienic, not taking showers, or doing the best to keep up your health can be detrimental as well. And that's kind of how I look at the spiritual side of things. Yes, we should be aware that there is a spiritual side of things, that there are angels and there are demons, there are fallen angels and there are demons, there are good angels, and that it is being waged. But at the same time, you know, some people have accused me of I'm not obsessed with spirits or demons or fallen angels or the negative like some may think. I do videos on it because that's where a lot of my experiences have come from, and I've learned a lot from them. But I agree with you here. There are lots of demons everywhere, but it also gives us peace that we have the Most High to follow, and we have Jesus or Yeshua, you know, that by his blood that we can rebuke these spirits. And of course, it just helps so much knowing that. I don't know what I would do if I didn't know that. Evangelist PJ Sampson said, yes, my mother's dementia has gotten worse and my life has like a curse on it now. Since the scarf, can my sister call other spirits on me? I'm sorry to hear about your mother having dementia. It does sound like, now that you're saying that it could be a result of the scarf. My advice to you, and I know this sounds horrible because your sister gave it to your mother, I would get rid of that scarf. I would begin to pray against any type of witchcraft or spells, hexes, that's coming against your family. And I would even pray, like, this is kind of, some people are against this, you know, whatever is being done to send it back. But I know it might be difficult if it's your sister. I've told this story before a couple times, so I'm sorry for those of you who've heard it. There was an instance where my mom, like, one day I came back from school and she told me how she felt like there was like a stroke trying to come up on her body. And she prayed that whoever was sending it, because she believed it was witchcraft, that would go back to them. And so that same day, I get notified by my dad that his uncle's wife, who we suspected was into witchcraft, she didn't like us, let's say that, she had a stroke and ended up in the hospital, and she had to get brain surgery. So I don't believe it's a coincidence. I definitely believe, you know, there are people who have the ability to work witchcraft to that extent. But yeah, it's so important that any attacks we feel coming up on us, that we pray against it. And, you know, some people will say it's wrong to send it back. I pray it's sent back to them, because if they're trying to ruin my life or my family's life, I think that, you know, they're the one putting it out there, and it should come back on them at least. But most importantly, though, plead the blood of Jesus over your mother. Take authority in Jesus' name. And like I said, get rid of that scarf. Sorry, guys. I got off on a tangent, and I keep looking away from the chat. Why is actually people creating hurricanes HARP. I think you're talking about HARP, and yeah, I mean, there is the machine for weather modification to worsen pre-existing storms. Saved by Grace said, love previous videos. Tonight I've seen so many demon faces. I have a grove of trees across the street. Never seen it before, but I saw a demon face in foliage tonight. Freaked me out and my husband. I'm sorry to hear about the demon face that you saw in the foliage. outside of your house. I'm not surprised. Like, it's interesting too, even when you look at certain clouds in the sky, and you can see like sometimes you can see faces in them. Sometimes they look like animals, and sometimes they don't look very pleasant or welcoming. Hi, Alan Van Riot. I see he's saying he's late. I see Alan Van Riot said awareness and discernment, spiritual warfare. Yes, those are all important, awareness and discernment. Saved by Grace said, I was watching a Christian film last night, and in one of the scenes, there was definitely a face on her neck. It was a demon. Oh, that's interesting that you saw that. I don't know. Maybe you're able to see spirits more frequently, or you're more perceptive to it than I am. Because I'm going to be honest with you, despite the experiences I've had, like when I'm awake, I don't see too many things when I'm awake. I mean, I see odd behavior within people, but I don't really see too many spirits. But what you're referring to, Saved by Grace, reminds me of another video I saw by the scariest movie ever. I'm bringing up his channel like a lot tonight, but he had a video. I can't remember. I think it was like something about the Jezebel spirit, and there was a woman, and she had like this face on her neck when she took a picture, and he believes that it was the Jezebel spirit captured. So it's interesting that you saw that same thing, but in a Christian film of all films you could watch. Max of all said, have you ever had a visual experience of Yeshua? I pray to see him at least once in my life. It seems all my life of sex and drugs and rock and roll are hard to watch. I have not had a visual experience of Yeshua. I would love to have a visual experience of him, but I never have. I've definitely felt his presence, but I've never seen him. Malibu Beats said, who do you recommend? I think Charles Lawson is legit. Hagman and Hagman, now AMTV, Just Found Christ, Tom Horn, Steve Quayle, and Anthony Patch, Gons, Gomorrah, Age of Deceit, those are who I listen to. And yeah, those are some of the same people I've listened to too over the years as well. They put out really insightful work, and it's inspired a lot of the work I've done on YouTube. Malibu Beat says, do you have any recommendations? I haven't been in church for like 4 years. Recommendations as far as like channels go, I need to actually get around to doing a recommended list. There are channels that have come to me and asked me to like review their content and share it, and I want to do that for these different channels. They put out really good work, and it's sad because on YouTube with the algorithms, everything's already rigged if you're in a certain department. Like if you're talking about, you know, anything to do with spiritual warfare or conspiracy theories, you're automatically not going to be at the top of YouTube's favorite list. But it's worse when you're like a small channel and starting out, because you really need exposure. I mean, that's how I got exposure for the channel, is a larger channel recognized my work and was able to share it. So definitely want to do that for different channels. But I know Jaguar Rye, he shared his channel with me last week, and he had a video about the demonic frogs that come out of the false prophet's mouth. I like watching Simona Rich. It's another channel that came to me. I believe her name's God's Daughter. I mean, some of these channels, like Simona Rich, she has quite a few people, but there's different channels that I've come across, and they cover a lot of this stuff we're talking about tonight with spiritual warfare or just interpreting the Bible, because those are topics that really need to be thoroughly addressed, and it takes the right kind of person, you know, the right kind of anointing to do that. And some of us are better at certain topics than others. Like I always say, I'm not the entertainment person. I'm not the person that's going to be able to put out stellar videos exposing the music industry or film. I admire channels that can do that, and I sure love to grab some popcorn and listen to the videos or watch them like movies, but that's definitely not my wheelhouse. Just a second, I'm scrolling up. Rusted Blade said pareidolia. I think he's referring to that psychology phenomenon where someone will see faces in, like, on the moon or in objects, and it's their brain making human faces out of what's not necessarily a face. I've heard that theory. I mean, I've given it thought, and I do think that can happen, but I also believe, too, sometimes people can see spirits as well. I see Saved by Grace says, I really like Barry Scarborough and Steve Sigalanti. I think I found Steve's. I'm not trying to say his last name. I'm sorry if I butchered it. But yeah, I found his channel recently. And Barry Scarborough sounds familiar. Evangelist PJ Sampson said, can a demon enter your ear gate at night? I've never given it much thought, but I do believe that we have to be careful what we listen to because just like our eyes, like Yeshua said that the lamp of the body was the eye. And so basically he's warning us about like what we let into our eye. Now some people argue he's referring to like the mind because they're thinking third eye. But I do believe we have to be careful what we listen to. So I would say that demons probably could try to enter through your ear gate, but I don't think they necessarily be able to take over your body just by like getting into your ears without some type of doorway. They may try to oppress you. I mean, I definitely know there are people at night who can't sleep because they hear things, but that's my thoughts on it. Rusted Blade said, I've heard God's voice loud and audible. Yes, I'm blessed, but special. I am not. I put it down to being deaf and dumb, and God had to speak up. Was awesome and terrifying at the same time. That's really awesome, Rusted Blade, that you heard God's voice, and I like how you take a humble approach to it and you put it out there that God chose to speak to you, but it doesn't necessarily, you don't feel some type of over prideful way about it, which is good mentality to have. Armando Beck, and hi Armando Beck, he said, what do you think about the movie American Satan coming out Friday? It's about a rock band that makes a deal with the Illuminati. Wow. Didn't hear about it till you mentioned it in the chat, but like I was saying at the beginning of this stream, they're basically, and Rusted Blade put out there, they're pretty much just rubbing it in our face at this point. It's like the whole, like, even the news, it's like, sometimes I turn on the mainstream news, and I know a lot of people barf when I say that, and it sounds like they took a note from the playbook of, like, pretty much now, it's no secret that celebrities are into Satanism, they sell their souls. I mean, we've seen the clips, and even, like, on Empire, on the 4th season, I believe it's on, I saw, like, a piece of it where one of the characters was singing about how he sold his soul to the devil. It's like, really? So they're basically just letting us know, yeah, this stuff isn't just a simple conspiracy theory, They do believe in selling their souls to the devil, but it's just more propaganda because, see, young kids who want to be rock stars, who want to be pop stars, or, they want to be famous, they're going to see that and be like, maybe I should sell my soul to the devil, or maybe I should get on this Illuminati stuff. And sadly, there's some kids that do that. I mean, even look at like what happened with the Slenderman killings with those children, I believe. I don't know if this is true. I don't want to share false news. And it's not funny, but I know there was the Slenderman case with the 12-year-old girl who stabbed her classmate, which is sad. And I believe that had spiritual influence. But then I hear there was another case just like it. And there was another story I heard where this kid tried to attack another child because they wanted to get into the Illuminati. So it's sad we have kids who are practicing what we think of as Satanism or violence because they believe in this Illuminati will bring them power, wealth, and fame. And what they don't understand about it is, this misconception about the Illuminati. You have people who will be like, the Illuminati doesn't exist. The Illuminati was just a bunch of scientists and philosophers during the Enlightenment era, and that's it. And they don't believe in like Adam Weishaupt reestablishing the Illuminati in 1776. Regardless of what you call the shadow government or secret societies that run this planet, celebrities that are the bread and circus for those for the masses to be kept asleep, they're not in the actual, elite circles. They're not the ones making the decisions. They're puppets, they're entertainment. And, people think, oh, if I sell my soul to the devil or if I do this, then I'll be famous and rich and I'll have all this power. But really, they're just going to be somebody's pet, maybe in a higher position than the average Joe with some better pay, but all that it takes, it's just sad. I guess that's my take on it. And I'm sorry for like the long-winded response. I'm checking back in the chat, guys. Evangelist PJ Sampson said, can a demon enter your ear gate into your head at night, now ringing in your ears? I know you asked about the ear gate at night. I'll admit this. I mean, I've had times when I've woken up in the middle of the night and I've woke up to hearing like bunches of conversations happening at once, and it wasn't my dream because I woke up and I still heard it. And I know there are a lot of people out there who will say like it's electronic harassment, I'm being gang stalked and all of that. And to entertain the idea of being gang stalked, guys, like I don't want to get into like all of that. And I mean, I do believe in gang stalking. I don't think I'm that special to be gang stalked. But I mean, I think, there's a spiritual side of it too. But yeah, I do think, sometimes I've heard even within sleep paralysis, people talk about like a mechanical vibration or a high pitch ringing in the ears that occurs. So I definitely think that's possible. Max of All said, what difference does a pareidolia have with a mirage? It's just another scientific term to cover us from what's beneath the veil of Isis, sex, blood, and black magic. Yes, I agree. Max of All, I mean, there's all these terms you can research with psychology, pareidolia, the ideomotor effect, the Barnum effect, all of these different terms that will try to explain away different paranormal phenomenon. And, I'm someone who, I enjoy science. I enjoy both natural and social science. I love learning terminology. I like learning all this theory and philosophy. But at the end of the day, I believe like in the spiritual matters. So I get what you're saying. I mean, there's a lot people will use to try to cover up the spiritual trail. Saved by Grace says, can I have your email address? I will send you a picture of the demon on the actress's neck. Be careful of Simona Rich. Please pray for her discernment. I've watched her before. Good, bad. I'll have to pray about her. I mean, from the videos I saw of her early on, I was fine with her content, but I haven't watched it, like I'd say, in months. So just a second. Let me give you my email address in chat really quick. All right. Just put my email out there. Josh S. said, are Jezebel and Lilith the same spirit? I'm not up on the topic. I've always seen them as the same spirit. I know there are some people who do not. I think what Lilith functions to do is very similar to Jezebel. We know that there was a Jezebel that existed, like an actual person at one point in time, but then we know there's a spirit. And while I don't believe in ghosts, I'm guessing that maybe Lilith could have worked through Jezebel, and afterward she works through other women, not just women, because there's men who have the Jezebel spirit as well. But this whole, spirit that wants to create, she hates prophets. She's all about false religion. You can see that with Lilith or Isis or Ishtar, this spirit that wants to create false religion and hates prophets of the Lord. I see Saved by Grace says Josh S. similar, not same. And it's interesting, Saved by Grace, that you say that, because I just explained it as the same, but maybe you have more insight on that you can share. Max of All said, is Simona Rich dangerous too? I watched your videos, some feedback, and that's what I was asking Saved by Grace as well about. Malibu Beat says, "What do you think about the Vegas shooting? We both know a 6-year-old is not strong enough to perform what he was accused of. Only John Rambo can carry all of those guns and bullets. How strong was he?" I mean, yeah, the Vegas shooting just reeks of a lot of bullcrap. I mean, you have two windows. I mean, first they were saying like he shot out of a single window on the 32nd floor. Then, of course, you saw the picture of two windows, and then they were saying like he was shooting out of both windows, one guy, and but yet they were saying he was locked inside. And to me, those windows don't look that close together. And then all of those guns he managed to sneak in, and you had no security cameras catch it. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's gonna say nobody died. There was no bloody footage. I need like um, dark net type of footage of torture blood to see that someone died. I mean, I think there are crisis actors that are probably involved in some of the reporting, and there are probably some people who may have been injured. I mean, we know that the people who run the media, who run the government, a lot of them are sadistic, and so they don't care if they hurt a few people here and there. But I mean, I definitely think that the story, there's definitely things they're not telling us. There's probably multiple shooters. There's definitely some foul play. I mean, look at the symbolism of the place it took, um, where it occurred at. You have a pyramid. You have the Egyptian theme going on there. So it was a ritual. It was probably some type of sacrifice, and it's basically just created like mass trauma for me. Again, it's always that I'm scared now to go to a concert. I'm scared. I'm scared to go to the school. I'm scared to go to work. I'm scared to go to the movies. If I go there, I will be shot. We need gun control. I'm scared. I'm scared. And I mean, once if they got guns taken away, people are scared of getting bombed by terrorists, so it's always used to push their agenda, and it's always this politicizing of a tragedy that we see with it. I see that Rusted Blade said, "I think Catholicism is a cult." And yeah, I mean, there are some things about Catholicism that I definitely disagree with. And I see, I'm catching up, guys. I see some of you guys are applying to one another. And I see that Wicked Witch that I think the government is ran by aliens. I mean, there is the reptilian theory that a lot of people like to play around with, that they're lizard men running everything. I mean, I just think that at the end of the day, it's fallen angels that run the show. I mean, Satan is the prince of this world. And, he uses people in power, what some may say the 1%, the elite, to make decisions and control the masses. I see Russet Blade said Catholicism left the Church of Ephesus. They were not the first church. I'm not really up on the history of Catholicism. I mean, I definitely am not Catholic. I definitely think there was a lot of false teachings within Catholicism, but if you could share more information on the history of Catholicism. I had a friend who went to like Catholic school. She's not Catholic, but she said to me that some of them tried to credit, I think it was Paul, with starting Catholicism, but that has nothing to do with it because they were around way before him. So I find that interesting as well. Malibu Beats asked, "What about all these hurricanes? I think it's all experimental man made." Yeah, I agree with you there, Malibu Beats, that a lot of it's probably product of HARP, NASA, their machinery they have, what some may say beast technology, fallen angel technology. I mean, either way, it achieves a purpose of wiping out more people. I mean, you look at the Georgia Guidestones where they want to reduce the population to a certain number, and the perfect way to do it is through these natural disasters. But I also think too, there is the possibility, given that, since this solar eclipse, there's been a lot more activity in terms of natural disasters, not just with hurricanes, but even with like, wildfires in California, the swarm of earthquakes in Idaho, not just in the United States of America, but even like in other parts of the world, like in Southeast Asia. I think it was over 100,000 people have died of flooding. But I'm with you though that there's definitely something like harp at play there, and I see Malibu Beats put chemtrails. Vol said they sing to Lucifer hymns in the Vatican. I think it's a sure sign of darkness. Yeah, I mean, I've never been to the Vatican. I've never been to a Catholic to mass, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I just look at the symbolism outside of the Vatican, and it's enough to me to be suspicious of what they truly believe and what really goes on within Catholicism. I see Juan Diaz said later, dazzling one. By Juan Diaz. Max Aval said, it's funny, kind David used his harp to speak to God and ask him intercession on earth. Elites use the harp system to exchange whether they always reverse the Bible. Yes, they do. They love inverting the Bible. That's why they like inverting the cross. That's why they like talking backwards. They like doing everything backwards because the natural order of things is forwards, but they want it to go backwards. Evangelist P.J. Sampson said birds, spiders are familiars doing bidding. Yeah, there's a lot of theories on like familiars, like animals that could be used to do bidding. Often you'll hear like cats. I've had weird experiences with birds. Spiders, that's a new one. But when it comes to the idea of like familiars, this is something that a lot of people, especially if you live in Western culture, don't really see as commonplace. But I'll tell you about like a dream I had really quick. So I had a nightmare when I was like 12 that I was walking down the street with my grandmother, and suddenly this like black cat, it ran up to her and it like leapt on her neck, and it just started trying to claw at her neck, like claw the skin off of her neck. And I remember I was like fighting to try to get this cat off of her. And then it's like within the dream, I saw like a vision. Like I saw like somewhere else, but I was still there, of like a witch. And she was just like laughing. Actually, they're kind of androgynous. I'm not going to lie. They kind of look like a dude. They were laughing at like my grandmother, like this cat. And then like within a few months, my grandmother was hospitalized for something to do with her thyroid. And if you're familiar with anatomy, the thyroid gland is in the throat. So I found that interesting, but a cat was used in the dream. And I mean, I've been places where like I felt uneasy tension as far as spiritual matters go, and I saw cats wandering around. I've been around some strange birds, but at the same time, it's like kind of like the germ thing. It's like I want to use discernment, and I don't want to get so skeptical that I become obsessed with every animal, thinking every animal that I see is a familiar. Malibu Beats says, if it's only 6:41 in I see Wicked Witch that I can talk to animals. I love them. And then Malibu Beats said, it's only 6:41 in California. I'm tired of the heat. I stay in my car and turn on the AC. Do you not have air conditioning in your house? And yeah, California, you guys it's really early for you still. I'm in Central Time Zone, the Midwest. It's already almost 9 o'clock here in another 16 minutes. It's that time of year too now where at least here it's transitioning. So like you don't necessarily need the AC as much as you did, during the summer. But at the same time, it's kind of like fan weather. I see that Rusted Blade said, my grandfather was a Jewish Holocaust survivor, but I will never be Judaized. My grandfather was also Lutheran, like most other German Jews who were slaughtered. Zionists were atheist. Malibu Beat says it's expensive. I'm guessing he's talking about the AC. Rusted Blade said Zionists wanted Lutheran Jews dead and saw them as traitors to their race. Interesting. I know, I know nothing when it comes to that type of religious history. Evangelist P.J. Sampson said, my mother said that wicked witch about cats and babies. Oh, I think he's referring to when she talked about cats taking the breath. I've never heard the theory of cats taking babies' breath before. But yeah, when it comes to the spiritual side of things, there's just a lot of different things that would seem odd from a natural standpoint that you could look at. Even the concept of animals. Can animals be possessed? That's why I've always prayed over my dog too, because some people would think it was a waste of time, but I think about the story in Matthew about Jesus and Legion and then the pigs, how they went into the pigs. So I believe animals can be used, possessed and used to do the devil's bidding too. And I think that can also tie into familiars as well. I see Saved by Grace is bringing up Ephesians 6:12. And Malibu Beats said, we had power outage. I need to buy a generator. When I was in Africa, my gramps had a generator. I see now. So, well, at least you got the AC of your car. But yeah, it does sound like it's really warm out there without the generator for your AC. I see Rusted Blade said Israel is a Freemason stronghold. The devil is setting up his throne in Israel, and Christians refuse to see it. So many Christians will be deceived by the Antichrist. I have to agree. A lot of Christians do support Zionism and give money to Israel. And, there's a whole scripture about the synagogue of Satan as well. But, yeah, definitely. I mean, every church I was ever a part of was definitely very pro-Israel, pro-Zionism. And, even, most televangelists, that's what they share as well. Christian 96. I don't know if I said hi to you, but when I was a babe, my cat was around protecting me always. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think all cats are bad. I don't think all cats steal babies' breath, but I'm glad to hear, though, that you had a cat when you were a baby that was around protecting you. Let's see. Wicked Witch asks, is the Antichrist already here? And I would say, I think he probably is, but he hasn't arisen at least yet. Josh S. said, is it true that, this chat keeps scrolling down, is it true that you have to allow spirits to enter you in one way or another while they can enter animals by will. Um, I think it's most likely easier for, and this is again, this is my opinion. So I think it's easier for them to enter animals easier because we were created in His image, and I know at least for us there is free will, so we have to give them permission to enter us. Whereas I think animals like the pigs, I don't know necessarily. Never said the pigs gave the demons permission. It just said they went into the pigs. So I'm assuming animals may not have the same level of free will that humans have to resist spirits from coming into them. But that's all theory. Like I don't have any scripture to back that up. But yeah, definitely. Like I always say, pray over your pets if you have any. I pray over my dog, and there have been times where like, even with his health, like his health was declining. Um, and when I started praying for him, and I also changed his diet as well. I saw radical improvement in his health as well. So yeah, definitely remember to pray for your pets if you have them, because so often we'll pray for like our other family members, but if a pet's a part of a family, make sure to always pray for them as well. I see too. Sorry guys, I was glancing at something and I see that you guys are talking about the rapture, and yeah, when it comes to the rapture, it's one of those things. Like it's another one of those big debates that people have within the body of Christ. I do believe in a, I don't know, like I don't take a firm stance, but I think it's most likely to be post trib than pre trib, or maybe even mid trib. But either way, we should live like we're prepared to be raptured tomorrow. And if we were raptured tomorrow, it'd be great. If not, then we're going to have to endure. I see Christian 96 said, which theory do you go with for the Antichrist, the RCC or Islam or New Age? Free will? Spiritually, we do not, but civilly, we do, as we confess in the AC over simplified definition here. I'm not sure what you mean by AC and RCC. And the free will. Like, I'm not sure what you're asking, I guess. Christian 96. I see that Rusted Blade said I could see spirits. I had many spiritual gifts from God, but I rejected them and wrestled with God for over a decade before He numbed the gifts. Um, and I think he's arguing with Wicked Witch because he's saying she's full of it. These gifts are terrifying. Um, I'm sorry to hear that the gifts that you had were terrifying. Like I said, I don't see spirits like on a daily basis. I've had sleep paralysis. There's been a couple of times I've seen a couple of things, and both times they're terrifying. But I couldn't imagine going through life seeing spirits, hearing voices, or any of that, like on a daily basis. Um, It's interesting you talk about like it being numbed um, by God when he prayed about it. I see Wicked Witch is asking, is mental illness real? And I do believe to some extent someone can be sick in their mind, but I don't, it's kind of weird my take on mental illness. I believe it can, I do think, there are things like anxiety and depression, but I think that behind all mental illness, there's a spiritual component of it. And I think that's why drugs work only so much. I think spirits can affect our body, like, and create physiological effects, affect our biochemistry. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is spiritual at its root. 96 said AC is Augsburg Confession and RCC is the Roman Catholic. Like for the Antichrist, do you see him coming from the Roman Catholic or Islam or the New Age? Oh, I see what you're saying now. I would say with the Antichrist that I think he's more likely to come from potentially the New Age, I'd say. I know a lot of people have theories on Islam and on Roman Catholicism. I think it'd be difficult for people who are anti theistic to accept a Islamic antichrist. Even a lot of Christians. I mean, let's be honest. Not very many people are buying Islam as a great religion to follow. So I think for him to come as Islam would be hard to appeal to most people. And I think with Roman Catholicism, there's a lot of criticism of it as well. Even though I will say that I think the Catholic Church could be very instrumental in helping him come about. I think the New Age is more likely because you could fit the New Age into just this postmodern era we're in. And you have a lot of secularist people that might embrace the New Age as well. Malibu Beat says, I'm working right now with multiple Muzzies and they are good people. I think we've been indoctrinated into categorizing Muslims as terrorists. I'm working with like 8 Muslims, they are friendly. I mean, I agree, Malibu Beats. There definitely is a agenda to demonize people from Islam as all radical terrorists, as jihadists. I've talked to Muslims, and some of them have been really friendly and all, but I don't necessarily agree with their belief system. But there definitely is this kind of like scare that many people have that like Muslims are going to take over this country and all of that, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, there are people I know that make the other content creators who are definitely wary of Islam. They may not have the same feelings that I have toward Islam, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think we're kind of programmed to fear Muslims, especially since 9/11. Arrested Blade says the Antichrist will stand on the temple of the mount and declare himself God, claiming there is no God above him. Saved by Grace says, Dazzling One, have you looked at the stars at night and seen anything odd? Yeah, I have seen odd things with the stars a few times. Stuff where like it looked like the stars are moving. I know there's satellites, yet planes in the night sky. But yeah, I've seen some odd things in stars, and I believe I've seen what some might think of as UFOs, not the like standard metallic type flying saucers. But yeah, stars are interesting to watch. Um, I'm coming up on 2 minutes, guys. So if there's any last things that you want me to address before the stream ends, just go ahead and type it out. I hear though for people that live like in more urban areas, like on the east and west coast, they don't get to see the stars at night because the chemtrails. I think I was watching a video by Richie from Boston. He was talking about how now that he's in Iowa, he's able to actually see the stars at night. Well, at least when he was in Iowa. I don't know if he's still there because I think he's just like traveling through. And Niels Otteson said you've probably seen stars move in the skies and shine in different colors, red, green, white. Yes, I have seen that before. Say by Grace said, I'll email you. Thanks. I'll be looking forward to your email. And Malibu Beat said, are you single? Yes, I am single. Russet Blade said, I'm watching for when Venus is directly above the upright crescent moon, like the Islam symbol. Interesting. Well, guys, it's 9 o'clock, and I'd like to thank you all for being a part of this stream. I look forward to talking to you guys next week, but stay tuned for Wednesday's video and next week's live stream. Take care, and God bless.